So Paul,
Yes.
camp. SCV's back.
Yes.
So what's happening?
Super excited. The players seem to be getting better every year, so it's really a lot of fun.
So how many total, do you know how many total kids came out to audition total?
There was a Texas regional and a California regional audition for percussion, and I'm not sure. I think it was between 200 and 300 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Really solid turnout. A lot of the one thing that ends up being a sort of a phenomena that happens is sometimes kids will be intimidated, about coming out unless they're really, really sure they're going to have a very good shot at making it. So the thing that is noticeable is that the percentage of people that can really play well is really through the roof. It's like 3 out of 4 people can really play well.
Right.
And some of my other experiences with other corps, especially when I was younger, there'd be just a ton of people, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you had that small.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just that small percentage could really play well, and now it seems to be the opposite, whereas like most everyone already knows how to play. And you're looking at just details, and the differences can be minute between players. So
Yeah.
It's
So are most of the camps for SCV here in Texas now?
right. And I think there's been a couple of reasons why. Obviously, it's much easier facility-wise to work with band programs in this area. It seemed to be a lot more difficult in California and a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, we're always concerned about the expense for the members. And I think there is definitely a feeling that there is a healthy margin of people that come from this area, more so than I think in the West Coast. So it actually saves the members quite a bit of money.
Oh, that's great.
Every month, they previously used to have to buy a plane ticket in addition to their tour fees and all that kind of stuff, and that can add up.
Well, it was interesting. I was talking to a couple of people on the admin earlier, and they were saying that out of 200 or 300 kids that would come to a camp, over 120 or 130 they have Texas addresses anyway.
Right.
They're driving to camp instead of.
They're really appreciative, and honestly, I'm sure some of those would be prohibited, by cost if they had to travel once a month to San Francisco or San Jose. It's expensive. It really is, and our demographic is broke students.
Right. Well,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
So I think, or as an organization, I think I'm pretty proud of that about us. We do everything we can to reduce cost and to make it more affordable.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's great. Well, I tell you, you have a beautiful facility. Just being here for a couple hours walking around, I'm like, we're at Southlake Carroll Senior High School, right?
It's called Carroll Senior High School.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful here. I mean, the auditorium is
gorgeous. Previously, the percussion director here was a former member of the group. He was a section leader of the quad line. He got a degree from North Texas, and that was his position. He's since moved, and it was actually filled by another alumni that I've known since the 90s. And so it's really a friendly situation. The band directors are really accommodating. I think they appreciate us being here so that their students become exposed to this.
Right. So speaking of former students in teaching, so 2024, this summer, what year is this for you teaching drum corps? I mean, let's do some math. Let's figure it out.
I don't mean to be coy about it, but I kind of have stopped counting. Let's figure this out. I marched in the 80s. So I started teaching a couple years after I aged out.
Was that 27?
So this is, I marched on the 27th Lancers. And then I'd say I did a couple of camps in the late 80s with a couple of different corps, and then started teaching really. I want to say this is 34 years, maybe 30. Maybe the very first camp I did, I think it was maybe 36 years ago or something.
Wow. That's insane.
I could be wrong. I don't know if I'm.
And how many years have you been at UNT as a professor?
Oh, the whole time. Yeah, this is. I think I worked as a lecturer, and so adding all of the years up, it's 30 years. But I think technically I have my 27, maybe 20 28th year of service award.
Okay.
Like that, so.
That's awesome. So when you look at the percussion section this year, obviously SCV was not out last year, and they're like, from everybody I've talked to with you and admin, like people are just through the roof excited about SCV coming back and the place that they're in and how excited they are about everything coming out. So you being off last year and having to watch it from the sidelines, so to speak, like how excited are you? I mean, we just talked about all the years that you've been doing this.
All right.
Like I've known you a long time. You're not a complacent person.
Right.
So like how excited are you after not having drum corps last year in your life, you and Sandy, to now get to do it again?
It's fantastic. I mean, honestly, it's sort of like a fresh start sort of thing. And it's so motivating to sort of try to, it's hard to explain it because you're right, because I've been doing it for so long. But taking a year off was really, I think, an unusual thing for me to see it. I went and saw 4 different drum corps shows, and that was total. I mean, when was the last time I did that? Like,
right.
Sat and watched everybody play,
Yeah.
and really was a student of it. I really analyzed, and I really was trying to analyze the state of drum corps and the shows and what's current and it was motivating for me to figure out new things to do.
Do you think it changed? Like you're in the middle of the writing process now. Do you think that had an impact?
A little
bit. Do you
bit.
think you're writing a little different?
A little bit. I think I'm a little more. I don't know. I think that the source material that we're using this year is definitely different, and it's not like scary at all. It's actually I'm totally. I think it's completely going to work, and it's going to be new and different. We're going to tap into a style of music that I really haven't heard that much.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like how it is when you're away from something, you realize how much you miss it and how much you want it, and it's just a lot of fun. It's been so much fun writing the music, and
That's awesome.
We're about halfway through the show from a writing standpoint, and so one thing that's kind of remarkable is how quickly the students learn the music, and it's just not only are they more talented than ever, or they've been exposed to more things, but just their ability to read and put the ensemble together quickly. It's like in any camp, we put together productions of music. It doesn't take us very long at all. We fortunate to have really smart musicians and really.
Yeah. Well, I was in the front ensemble room, and they were literally playing one measure at a time, going through. And then I left for like 20 minutes, and I came back, and it's like up to tempo, vocabulary is there, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that worked. So the process is working.
It's rewarding to be to write music that you can tangibly hear. You can pass it out, and in a day you can hear it.
Right.
We all have a dependency on MIDI and playback and all that, but the one thing that will never get old is live music, and
right.
Just hearing it, and it made me miss it a lot last summer when I heard the first show live. We kind of accepted the fact that
right.
things were happening, and
Yep.
and honestly, the one collateral benefit was spending a lot of time with our family.
Mm-hmm.
We have young kids, and it was just a great time. We went and traveled a little bit, but then we came back, and right around the time when all the corps were coming through Texas, we saw all those shows. And
Yeah.
Man, the first show, even relatively smaller corps, just the excitement level of live music, it made me miss it a lot.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of waiting for now for a whole year. So
That's awesome. So are you going to be pretty excited for that first show?
oh yeah.
I'm sure.
I think we're just, the thing that's almost the most interesting for me is the preparation process. It's like putting the show together and working with the students in that environment. And I think I have at least try to have the mindset of we're trying to put everything together and then simply go on tour. Back when I was a player and back a while ago, you would use the tour to rehearse and to sort of
Yes, absolutely.
change the show, and believe it or not, there was a time when there was a first tour, second tour, and there was a
Right.
week in between, and you could kind of fix things that didn't work. I think there's a lot more pressure now to make sure it works right away, because the tours are getting shorter. The travel between shows is longer. There's less time to figure all that stuff out. So we're trying to really be super prepared so that we can tour kind of like a professional group and not panic at all. So.
Yeah, of course. So from a SABIAN standpoint, I'm excited that you guys are out for sure. But I'm really excited to hear some of the music and some of the sounds. We talked a little bit earlier. I was talking with KJ about some moments and trying to find those special sounds and stuff like that. You've had a chance maybe to hear the hand cymbals and stuff like that you developed for us a couple years ago, the overtures. Are you still excited? You got your brain wrapped around all that sound, and you think it's
I think it's remarkable. Good. I mean, there's a reason that we're associated,
right.
And I think it's because of the, just the creativity and innovation behind the company. The hand cymbals, honestly, I'm very sincere about this. It was the first time that I thought every little nuance thing was audible. Because I think we're always fighting that battle.
Of course,
in drum corps, there's new sounds being created, especially with like the electronic layers and the amount of people that are playing. And audibility is a real issue sometimes. And if the staging of the cymbal line or on the field is not ideal, or they're further back, I was just absolutely blown away in 2022 that no matter where they were, I could hear them. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. I mean, it really is an absolute game changer. To have that be a real viable, audible thing that you hear. You can hear it in rehearsals, but we've kind of accepted the fact that, okay, we're going to go out there. You're not going to hear half of it anyway. I felt like the last time we toured, it was the opposite. I heard everything, and I felt like that was kind of checklist number one. You had to be present. It had to have enough oomph to fill up where we play.
Well, and you can't have, it's not college marching band. You can't have 12 cymbal players out there.
We have 4 people, and that's what we have. And I was just really overjoyed. Never reached a point where I felt like it was lacking in any way. I was like always very honestly impressed every single time. And then just the variety of sounds in the front ensemble. It's the opposite of generic. You know what I mean? It's so,
like that.
So detailed that you can. I really have to writing the score after Sandy and I go through the whole score. We really have to kind of take a step back and say, okay, now what do we want exactly?
Let's dial that in.
Like you can differentiate between different shades of colors, and I just feel like that is. That I can't even tell you how much I appreciate that. As somebody who writes a lot of music, it's just really.
Well, it was funny when I was talking to KJ earlier. We were talking about stuff, and I haven't told you this yet, but we have a plan because KJ said, "All right, I need you to come out for that first show in Stanford when we're practicing, because that's usually when Paul stands up and goes, what are we doing? We need this. We need that sound. Why don't we have this sound?" So KJ and I have your back. We got a plan. I'm going to send out a bunch of stuff, and we'll switch it in and out, and we'll get you the sounds you want from the very beginning. Because I can't imagine, you're hearing stuff in your head, and you and Sandy are working really well together to put all this together, and then all of a sudden you're there and you hear it for the first time in a stadium, and you're like, oh, we need something bigger, or we need something louder, or whatever. So we've got your back on that. We'll figure it out for you.
I'm definitely that way. I can wing it. I find that it's a lot more comfortable reacting in the moment. You know what I mean? I obviously we spend an enormous amount of alone time behind the computer and trying to get get kind of a basic playback. I think the MIDI playbacks for me are always a necessary thing, but I'm not dependent upon it. I try to. A lot of times I will turn off the sounds and I'll just sort of write. But being able to improvise in terms of orchestrating things in the moment, I don't think there's a substitute for that. I really don't.
Right.
I think
So the trial and error process.
Yeah, I haven't really
okay.
heard a MIDI that sounds bad. You know, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you got to question whether how accurate that really is.
Right.
And yeah, a lot of times.
And those MIDIs don't have the right cymbal sounds in them.
You're exactly right. Yeah, they're just like basic. And so you know, like, okay, these are all placeholders. And
Right.
then when we get there and really set the whole thing up, and really, hear it in a place like Stanford where it becomes more exposed. Like the choices you make are even more important in those times.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I wanted to talk about was it's interesting when I was pulling up this morning or this afternoon, I was thinking to myself, like, I remember our first conversation when I got to SABIAN, and we had a discussion about, like, I want to build a cymbal that nobody's heard that sound before. And it took us a while because it was COVID and we were sending cymbals back and forth and well, can we make this 15% longer, let it ring a little more and stuff like that. I am just so grateful for you. Like,
likewise.
I can't tell you how grateful I am for you and Sandy, and you and I talked about SABIAN education and it being a community and a family, and it is one of those things that now, like with you and Mark Ford and Tom Burrett and Scott Herring and John Parks at Florida State and Yijing Fong just came on, and all the high school groups that we have, like a lot of that is because you trusted me and you trusted SABIAN, and I appreciate that because there are so many people now that are experiencing the product, and what you just said is exactly what I hear. They're like, man, there are so many sounds to choose from. Right. It's great that like you guys aren't pulling back just because of like, hey, let's pull back on the the economy is crazy. Let's only make 3 Chinas and not 19. Like that type of thing. But it was interesting because we've had those discussions before. Like, should we cut things back a little bit? And it was you that came back, like, when I sent you all that stuff, you said, I'm a little overwhelmed. Like, there's so many sounds. Like, I love it. Like, I can actually get the right sound I need. And it was after that I talked to Andy Zildjian and some other people at SABIAN, and I was like, this is what Paul said, and they're like, oh, okay, well, if that's what we got to do, our job is to make products that you feel that you can create the best music with, and you always have top tier, amazing players, without a doubt. And you and Sandy do a phenomenal job writing wise. So I can't thank you enough for showcasing that product and letting people hear what these sounds sound like.
I appreciate it. I remember those days too. The one thing that is fantastic about SABIAN is that it feels like a small boutique company, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like one of the largest cymbal companies in the world, but it does feel like it's an artisan sort of, like a boutique. Like you can have conversations like you were talking about like really subtle differences between cymbals, and you guys have gone through and it's overwhelming in a good way. Yeah, I should say that definitely. Yeah, it's not overwhelming in a bad way. I mean, when you find those cymbals, it's always like a gift, like a present you just found. Like I remember you sent all these cymbals, and I just was going through each one, and it was like I had never, I had never had a chance to use them before, and it was like, man, you just can't wait. Yeah, yeah. And you play something and go, I know the perfect spot for that. Right, exactly. So, but with Mark Love and yourself and Andy Zildjian, it's just like such a pleasure to work with, and like everything that you say, you feel like it's heard, and you feel like there's value to that, and it's important. And I think we at Vanguard feel like it's important. Yeah. We're a valued thing, and we can sense that for sure.
Well, and I tell you, from my side, I've been in the music industry for 23 years now, going on 24, and I feel the same way. You know what I mean? Like when I talk to Mark Love and Andy and Stacy, the senior vice president, when I talk to them, I feel like they hear me. Like, I mean, I remember having a conversation with Andy going, Paul wants to try these new hand cymbals. We have a lot of hand cymbals. And he's like, okay, let's do it. And I'm like, well, let's, what do we do? And he's like, just call Mark Love and make it happen. Like, our job is to create, instruments for people to create wonderful music. So I'm so grateful. I'm so excited SEV's out. I'm so excited. Like, honestly, the world was kind of like, hey, are they coming back out? What's happening?
Well,
and now
tell you
it's
what,
like, SEV's back.
I am not I'm not privy to all of the inner details about the whole situation, but I can clearly say it's stronger now than I think it's ever been
It seems like
in
that.
the history of the organization.
Yeah.
And, having some key administrative people jump on board.
Yeah.
Russ Gavin.
Russ was great.
Yeah, Russ Gavin and Gio Bastante as I think that the one thing that Gio was joking to me about today was like, it's surprising just how much they agree on everything. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, in an organization, that's a big
Right.
thing. You're like, wait a minute, we're not arguing about stuff.
Right. So yeah, I think Russ has a clear long-term vision, and I think all of the designers that are involved with the Corps, I mean, obviously we all have clearly hung in there.
Yeah,
the group.
absolutely.
I think in the big picture, it's going to be a small bump in the road, and I think we're coming out stronger, at the back end of it. And
Well, I tell you,
can't
just
wait.
from walking around, you got some players.
Right.
That is pretty impressive. Yeah, you definitely got some players. So thank you again. I appreciate it, and super excited about SEV. And I'll see you at Stanford with a lot of more symbols, so we can
Yes.
dial that in.
Go SCV.